Well, the Young Turks, what is this?
Who is this?
I know, right? I'm back. It's that reference that probably no one understands. It's from an old Eminem song. It's now old. I used to, when I started doing it, it was old.
Back again?
Yeah, it was new. But
it was new in the 90s.
Okay, so I'm not only am I back, I'm super, super, super excited for a number of reasons. Partly because of the stories we're going to cover today. Does Bloomberg have a chance of becoming president of the United States? I have very strong opinions on this. I'll even tell you who his VP is going to be. Nobody knows it yet. I know it. Wrong. I'm the one person who does know it. Later in the program, more bragging by me, backed up by actual facts. Yes, I'm back. Okay.
I'm not looking forward to that part.
John knows what's coming. All right. Now, we're all feeling the burn. We're going to talk about the burn imminently. That's coming up. And then speaking of the burn, Anna on fire on CNN. We're going to discuss that with the legend herself in the second hour when she's here.
Yeah. The only bad part of that is that nobody's going to see it because it was on CNN.
Oh,
damn! She was good too, but people did upload it to YouTube, so it will now be seen. That's good enough.
Too much. Hey, I didn't say it. Okay. Now, my favorite story in the second hour, other than Anna kicking ass on CNN, is should you be serving weed instead of alcohol at your next party? And then my second favorite story is what happens when a politician tries to get votes on Tinder. Does he get something else instead? We got a show for you guys. We got a show. But, okay.
It's a technique Republicans have been using for years, but now someone's coming out and being open about it.
Right. Now, all of that is why I'm excited about today's show. Why I'm excited overall. Do you guys understand there's only a week left before the Iowa caucus? Next Monday.
That's exciting.
Dude, you don't even know, man. The voting begins. The voting begins. John's going to tell you.
Yeah.
Has Bernie caught her in Iowa yet? It's so close. It's so close. God, this is exciting.
It's impossible to predict, but I want to predict so that you can clip it out and use it against me someday.
Okay, so, and then tonight we got a town hall. Speaking of Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley, all of them town hall tonight. We're covering it. So that is, we're going to do the regular show, and then at 8:45 p.m. Eastern, we're right back here, me, John, Anna, Ben, I believe, and we're going to cover the town hall, see how they all do. On Thursday night, there's a Republican debate. I feel like, whoa, it's been like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that when they go slug. That last Republican debate, as you're going to see later in this program, one of the most consequential debates that we've had in a long, long time. So they do have fireworks on their side. Yeah. That's on Thursday night. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. If there's a debate, there's an election night. What are you doing? Don't even think about going anywhere else because we are going to lose our minds here. Okay, that night in Iowa, Jimmy Dore is going to be in Iowa.
What?
Jordan, our reporter, is going to be in Iowa. Irina, our EP, in Iowa. We're all over Iowa. The caucus is coming. The caucus is coming. Can you tell I'm excited? All right, now, having said all that, come and caucus with us. We're going to get started now.
I'm going to have to block that.
Okay. Well, I think that's what happened to the politician who went on Tinder. He got caucused. Okay. Well, hold. That's in the second hour. All right. We got lots of political news for you guys.
Yeah,
John,
we have a full show of political news, so you know that we're very close to the election. It's only a year away. And the whole rundown. So that's going to be a very exciting year for us. I'm joking, of course. I love talking about this stuff, especially the polls, and I got leeway to talk about a lot of them. Okay, let's jump first to President Obama. The president has avoided largely speaking about the Democratic primary, but he just had an interview with Politico where he made clear some of the things that he thinks about both Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. We're going to start off with what he thinks about Bernie Sanders and what he has tapped into amongst the voters.
I mean, when you watch this, do you see any elements of what you were able to accomplish in what Sanders is doing?
Well, there's no doubt that Bernie has tapped into a running thread in Democratic politics that says, why are we still constrained by the terms of a debate that were set by Ronald Reagan 30 years ago? Why is it that we should be scared to challenge conventional wisdom and talk bluntly about inequality.
But it sounds like you're not buying the sort of the easy popular dichotomy people are talking about, where he's an analog for you and she is herself.
No,
you don't buy that, right?
No, I don't think that's true.
Okay. No. Now, I have a lot to say about this. First off, whenever President Obama wants to be more careful, he gets more boring.
Yes.
He takes a long time to answer. Okay, like, I don't want to screw up any of the words here because I can't be seen as supporting one over the other. Now, who does he actually support? It is overwhelmingly clear, in my opinion, based on this interview. Clearly, Martin O'Malley. No. Hillary Clinton. He's definitely on Hillary Clinton's side. Now, the interesting question is, why? Not just because they worked together and she was a Secretary of State. That's a perfectly good reason, right? It's because of that very last answer. So it seems like, people think that he's like you. Bernie Sanders is like you, now running as Hillary Clinton the way you did. And he's like, that's not true. Okay? Now,
because he won.
Well,
he doesn't want to set that up as like, oh yeah, he's doing what I did, I beat her.
No. So that's a perfectly fair point, and that might be going through his head too. But the sense I got from the whole answer and from the whole interview was that, this guy, he wants to reset the parameters.
Yeah.
But that's not realistic. I know I said that I would bring you real change, but that's not practical. And so don't judge me for these 7 years where I didn't bring you real change.
Yes.
And I did practical politics like Hillary would. That's why I'm on his side. Now, this Bernie guy, he hasn't exactly been vetted yet, right? And so is he like me? No. And that's why he talks about the Ronald Reagan thing, where Bernie Sanders is not accepting the normal paradigm of, okay, here's what the politics of today are as set by Ronald Reagan back then. And Sanders is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bring you real change. And I think that really gets under Obama's skin, because that's what he was supposed to do and didn't do.
Yeah, the idea that we start off center-right, and then every year we just go a little bit more to the right, every single year, for the next few decades until the entire planet explodes. And yeah, of course he would be bothered by that, both because the comparisons are so obvious to make in terms of how the campaign has been going down, but he's a smart guy, and he knows that he campaigns like Bernie Sanders and he governs like Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
So he recognizes in her. And the thing is, he'll say Bernie Sanders hasn't been vetted, but no, that's not the problem. The problem is that Bernie Sanders has been vetted. We know what he stands for because he's been standing for it for decades. Barack Obama was able to come in for about a term-ish, not really say or do too much, and so when he gives campaign speeches, we're going to take him at his word. But we shouldn't have. But Bernie Sanders, he actually governs the way he speaks.
So, John, great turn of phrase there, and then a great substantive point. He campaigned like Sanders and operated and legislated like Hillary Clinton did. But the substantive point there is Bernie Sanders might be the most vetted candidate we have ever had. So the president couldn't be more wrong about that. He has a 40-year track record of being incredibly progressive. That's why when he says, I'm going to bring you real change, I'm going to be a real progressive, people believe him. Because having been burned by the likes of Obama, progressives, especially millennials, are like, yeah, fool me once, as George Bush once famously said. Won't get fooled again, right? So now the reason people have glommed on to Bernie Sanders is because this guy ain't fooling us.
Yeah.
He's been doing this for 40 frickin' years.
Yeah, and even if he does end up fooling us, it feels good to be happy again. Oh, well.
No,
I don't think he will.
No.
So you think he's leaning towards Hillary. Let's see. In this video, he's going to talk about Hillary's advantages. Let's see if this shakes things up. It shakes up your impression.
Hillary presents is a recognition that translating values into governance and delivering the goods is ultimately the job of politics, making a real life difference to people in their day-to-day lives. I don't want to exaggerate those differences, though, because Hillary's really idealistic and progressive. You'd have to be in the position she's in now, having fought all the battles she's fought and taken so many slings and arrows from the other side.
Barack's a smart guy, but that last point didn't make any sense. Yeah, she's been attacked for a long time. 99% of the attacks from the right have been false. That doesn't mean she's progressive. They would hate her regardless of what she does. So his point was nonsense, I think.
No, that right there is almost dispositive as to who he's supporting. So in case you don't speak politics, okay, let me translate for you. When he says Hillary presents is a recognition that translating values into governance and delivering the goods is ultimately the job of politics. What he's saying is, yeah, Bernie Sanders pie in the sky, but like me, Hillary Clinton can recognize that you have to translate those values into governance.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's definitely understand. Okay, more. Then he says, making a real life difference to people in their day-to-day lives. Like, Bernie's got a lot of speeches, like I had a lot of speeches, right?
Yeah.
But you got to then ultimately turn that into a real difference in day-to-day lives, and that's what Hillary Clinton can do.
Yeah.
So there's no question he's headed in that direction.
He also said, because the one thing everybody understands, that this job right here, you don't have the luxury of just focusing on one thing. Maybe he's not trying to attack Sanders there, but what one thing is Sanders focusing on? I can't think of what that one maybe the economy as one thing. That wouldn't even be true. But inside of that, the idea that he's like a one-issue person, no, he's progressive on, we can attack him on a couple of things, but for the most part, most policies that you could think of. I don't even understand what that's supposed to mean.
No, I know what he's referring to. So you might think, well, I guess the main issue for Bernie Sanders is income inequality. Maybe that's what he's referring to. But John's right. Wait a minute. Now he's very strong on single-payer health care. That's a giant issue for him.
Family
Education. And all these things that he's laid out is going after the banks, all these progressive agenda that is not a single issue. No, what President Obama is referring to there is the issue of change. Okay, I'm serious.
Obama does have an issue with that.
Yeah, he does. And so that's why he keeps pausing and hemming and hawing. But Sanders is under his skin because Sanders is saying you actually can get change. The one issue you ran on, President Obama, and he knows he didn't deliver on. Now, he thinks he did, and I think a lot of people that are progressive or Democrats would give President Obama credit for delivering on the things he said he would deliver on after he got elected, right?
Yeah.
After he got elected, he's like, no, I meant really like incremental change that'll lead to bigger change at some point after I'm done being president, right? And a lot of Democrats think, no, Obamacare was, significant enough, right? There's a
Millions
lot of
more people who have health insurance that
but incremental change. That's what Barack Obama actually believes in, but that's not what he ran on. He ran on fundamental change.
Yeah.
That's the one issue that Bernie Sanders that runs through his entire campaign, and that's why Obama is here is like poo-pooing it, like, you'll see, governance isn't like that, Bernie.
Yeah. Well, why don't we watch this last video? We're going to talk about both Sanders and Clinton's advantages here, and then I have a bit of a beef to raise with the way that the entire country has been talking about this primary.
I think Bernie came in with the luxury of being a complete long shot,
right,
and just letting loose.
Right.
I think Hillary came in with the both privilege and burden of being perceived as the front runner.
Look, I think that those are perfectly fine points, and I think they're accurate. So I am so sick of this BS that's just cast out and is left unexplained that, it would be great if Sanders could actually do all the things that he says he's going to do, but we need someone who's actually going to get things done, so, obviously, Hillary Clinton, without any evidence actually being presented as to why she would be able to day-to-day get more done, when we know that other than maybe Bill Clinton, there is no Democrat more hated by the right, by the people that she would have to be working with. They despise her. They think that she and Bill Clinton are literally murderers, that they killed people when they were back in the governorship. The idea that if you were to look back over decades and decades of Democratic presidents, who do you think of as getting things done? I mean, Bill Clinton did incremental changes. He made some of the major policies in our country more conservative incrementally. He certainly did that. But when you think about people who made a lot of change, I mean, you've got like FDR, you've got LBJ. They weren't people who were coming in like, well, I'm going to take it very slow and maybe I'll accomplish a little bit. No, they're people who come up with huge plans exactly like Bernie Sanders. That's how you get them to change. You come at them with a landslide victory because you've run a populist campaign with big plans and a bold vision for the future, and then you ram it down their throat, as they're always talking about. Not, well, I'll come in with a little bit. Can I have it? Like, they're not going to punch you right in the face. You've seen Barack Obama. You know how they respond to that BS.
God damn, that's a good point. I'll just add this last thought on it. So they keep saying, and President Obama didn't exactly allude to it, the Republicans do some more so, but the whole talk of not being realistic alludes to it. Well, how are you going to afford all this stuff, right? Well, it's not like Bernie Sanders is stuttering about that. It's not like he's not explaining it. And it's not like he's wrong. Everybody understands. No, he says, I'm going to tax the rich. I'm going to tax them a lot more. I'm going to tax corporations more. So that pays for it. It does. Everybody agrees it does pay for it. If you actually did increase the taxes to the degree that Bernie Sanders is talking about, it would pay for it. It just, everybody in Washington refuses to see it and hear it. They're like, yeah, but how are you going to pay for it? I just told you how I was going to pay for it, and I'm not going to do any more of your $1 trillion wars. Yeah, the reason they keep not believing him because they think, no, we got to have the wars. And no, we can't touch the rich. This guy's crazy.
That's that, not from Reagan, but that's the same idea. No, that's the system. We've had it for 30 years. Now proceed from that. No. They have to do that.
They think, well, you're not allowed to do that. But the reason Bernie Sanders is now on fire is because he's saying, oh, I'm allowed. Okay, I'm going to come in with a big plan like John said that FDR did, LBJ did. And I'm going to say, hey, instead of spending all this money on wasteful wars, I'm going to spend it on your kids. If they earned it, I'm going to give them a free education. I'm going to spend it on you guys, the middle class, to get you jobs. Yes, I can do that, and I will do that. And that's what President Obama there again says. Well, he has that advantage of being able to let it loose. Oh, he doesn't like them. He don't like that. Okay. No, he's definitely on Hillary Clinton's side. Because Bernie Sanders gets under his skin for exactly the opposite reason of what President Obama is saying. He's saying he hasn't been vetted. No. 40 years of progressive track record, and that's what bothers you because he has done it his whole life.
Yeah, and you know Hillary has been vetted because you don't make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars giving speeches on Wall Street without them not really being sure where you stand.
They know where you
clear.
stand.
Okay, let's jump to some numbers then. The first Democratic caucus is just about a week away, and after tonight there will be no more debates and no more caucuses. Thank you, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So here is the state of polling in Iowa with 1 week left to go. Not that much time to move numbers, although a lot can theoretically change. This is a recent poll, by the way. The most recent we have. The CBS News YouGov poll, released just Sunday, shows Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders with the support of 47% of likely Iowa caucus goers, compared to Clinton's 46%. Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley trails with about 5%. Now, if you look back over the past month, which has advantages and disadvantages, the 30-day averages of all polls in Iowa by Real Clear Politics shows Clinton with a 7% lead over Sanders in Iowa, but Sanders with a 13% lead in New Hampshire. So we'll turn back to New Hampshire in just a little bit. Now, there have been recent polls that have been sent in with Bernie up 9 points in Iowa, and there's also been polls with her up 9 points in Iowa. And so we don't know at this point.
So the reason they use the tracking polls for the month, and Real Clear Politics does, having the Post has a version of their own, is because any one poll could be off. You take an amalgamation polls, it's more likely to be correct. But with a very significant caveat, especially as you near an election, which is that the more recent polls are more likely to be accurate as we get closer to Election Day. Now, if you're doing it 3 months out, it doesn't really matter, right? I would take the average of the month polling, right? But if you're getting close to election time, well, they're about to vote, so the more recent poll matters more. And the two most recent polls, Bernie Sanders is winning, 9 points to 1 point. Right? So again, there's
although 1 point effectively means nothing.
It's a statistical tie. So that brings us to a couple of conclusions. New Hampshire is over. Okay, here the 13 points in the tracking poll over a combination of all those polls. Let me read you one more here. Graphic 5. In New Hampshire, Sanders leads with 57% in the CBS YouGov poll, almost 20 points higher than Clinton's 38%. So the most recent poll, he's walloping all the polls. It's New Hampshire's over, okay? Unless Iowa is so revolutionary that it affects New Hampshire in an unpredictable way. So he's going to win New Hampshire, 95, 98% chance that he's going to win, okay? So now, Iowa, okay. One, conclusion is he can definitely win. Doesn't mean he's going to definitely win. But now the polling is at least close enough where it could go either way.
Although 538 is, I think they are still saying it's like 82% Hillary. As
No,
of a
no,
couple
Nate
days
Silver's lost his mind, okay?
I just have to say, because we have turned to him in the past, so we have to
I
acknowledge.
hear you. But no, Nate is obsessed. I'm looking at the same numbers he's looking at, but he's been saying all along, Bernie doesn't have a chance, Bernie doesn't have a chance. He's been dismissing Trump all along, and I feel like he's wedded to his position. I'm like, Nate, like your whole job is reading polls. I can read the same polls you're reading, right? I don't see how you come to the conclusion with one poll showing Bernie Sanders at 9% advantage over Hillary Clinton, and he's like, no, Hillary Clinton, 82% chance of winning. Now, I know he's got an explanation for it, right? But I'm not buying what he's selling. So I'm looking at the polls myself. I got eyes, okay? So now, he can definitely win, and the second conclusion is, I don't care what Nate Silver says. I don't care what the Bernie Sanders supporters say. The reality is, right now as things stand, no one has any idea who's going to win Iowa, okay? So that makes that night super exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I love politics. That's part of the reason we do this job. We're going to do live coverage of the caucuses.
Yeah.
And I'm already buzzing a week out. That night I'm going to be on fire. And if Bernie Sanders wins and he's got New Hampshire locked down,
then there's like 3 weeks before the next one of him having won 2 in a row. That would be pretty rough. Yeah.
there's going to be a brush fire that spreads across the country.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden, in South Carolina, you're like, ooh, I got a little tinge there. Nevada, ouch, what is, I feel the burn. So, okay, that part is speculative, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see if he does. And by the way, if he doesn't win Iowa, that's also huge. Because right now, the pundits, and they are, they're maddening. They'll say, New Hampshire, we already knew he was going to win that. We dismissed it. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. So if he loses Iowa, they're like, that's it, it's over. She won Iowa. New Hampshire doesn't matter. She's got a lead in South Carolina. It's already over.
Yeah.
They
might as well drop out. He should drop out.
No, they will say that overwhelmingly, even if she wins by like 1 or 2 points in Iowa.
Yeah.
So that's why Iowa's so important, and what a dramatic night Iowa's going to be.
Now, the thing is, one of the reasons you see this 9 points for him, 9 points for her, is that they're using different models. Like, people think, well, you just need a purely representative sample of Iowa for a poll, which is how polls normally work. But for a primary, that's not how they work, because the electorate in a primary is not perfectly representative. So some include more young people. He'll do better in those. Some don't. She'll do better. Now, normally they do that because young people don't go to primaries, and so it makes sense to leave them out. But he's really popular with young people and is firing them up, so maybe they'll go out. So that's why you have such differing conclusions. But there's nothing sexy about saying you don't know for sure who's going to win. And I like the idea of being able to go back and saying that I told you so. So I just want to say on the record, Bernie Sanders is going to win Iowa. And just in case, Hillary Clinton is going to win Iowa. So I'm going to be right either way.
He's on the record.
Nobody's going to remember that other part. But there is an interesting stat.
There's two interesting
going
stats.
into Iowa, I think, could lead you to think, if you know how people have decided in the past who to vote for in a primary, that this could matter. Sanders is seen by 91% of Iowa's Democratic voters as the candidate who would best listen to the needs of the people if he was president. And about 57% of Democrats feel Clinton would do what big campaign donors would want instead of what regular people would want.
Very badly burned.
Okay. No. That is an amazing number.
Yeah.
When 91% of the voters say, well, this guy's going to look out for me. Look, politics breaks down to basically just a couple of simple things. Are you strong? This is what a lot of people don't talk about on TV, but that's why Trump is winning. And Bernie, in his own way, is very strong, saying, these are the progressive positions, and I'm coming for the bankers. I'm going to close down this top 6 banks.
Yeah.
That is amazingly strong.
Yeah.
Another thing is, do I think that you're going to look out for me? Those are your two, in my opinion, biggest, and a lot of people would agree with me who've run big campaigns, right? Mm-hmm. Two biggest things you got to do. He's got it locked down.
Yeah, only 91% of it.
See, again, I've been covering politics for 20 years, and I look at the numbers, right? 91% is a giant number, man.
Yeah.
For 91% of the voters that are going to go vote to say, well, I know that guy's got my back.
Yeah.
What do you want? 95%?
That's so big. That's almost enough to get universal background checks. Almost.
And almost as devastating is the second half of that, which is the 57% saying, I know Hillary's going to look out for the donors. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad.
That's pretty bad.
Again, if Bernie wins Iowa, those numbers then catch on fire. If he doesn't, the pundits will throw water all over those fires. Like, no, there's no burn. There's no burn. Look at, don't look.
I think you're half right. I think the pundits are they're sloshing their buckets already, regardless of what happens. I mean, look, I've been tweeting about this. I like Vox. I go to Vox every day. They can't go a couple of hours without putting up some Bernie Sanders would be Armageddon for America headline lately. It's all over the internet already.
By the way, all those pundits, even including Nate, who I really, really respect. He's lost his mind in this election, but I respect him, okay? And I'm the one who's been defending him all these years. But I got to say, there was one person who had a slightly better record than he did in the last election. I went 12-0 in my predictions. 12-0, including a race that was put at 25% likelihood in North Dakota of the Democrat to win. I said the Democrat, in fact, would win. I called Obama's election 6 weeks before the election, okay, based on polling, based on how the campaign was being run, the two polls of how you run a campaign that I just explained. Okay, now, back to this campaign, one last thing. Again, really interesting. Who can make the difference here, right? So we got Iowa coming up. Bernie Sanders up in the last couple of polls, but overall, if you look at a month-long of polling, Hillary Clinton's up by 7. Anybody could win it. Who's going to make the difference? It could be young voters. Now, look, generically, people talk all the time about young voters this and young voters that, and then they say, oh, they don't show up. Okay, no.
They don't, generally.
No. But I have very specific numbers here, okay? So first off, who are young voters supporting, Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton? Look at these numbers. Graphic 17. Hillary Clinton, 18 to 29-year-olds. Oh, she's got 14% support. Bernie Sanders, 74% support among 18 to 29-year-olds.
Wow.
47% support in 30 to 44. Now Hillary Clinton has the advantage. She's got 50% support there. And then at 45, 64, it's a little bit more mixed. Bernie has the advantage. Yeah. No, I think between 30 and 64, that's basically a statistical tie.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right. So now you look at 65%, and now Bernie's advantage with the young flips, and Hillary Clinton has almost as big an advantage with people that are senior citizens. So she gets 61% of the senior citizen vote. Bernie Sanders only gets 28%. Now, if you study politics, you go advantage Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Okay? Because seniors vote a lot more than the young. In fact, in the last 5 Iowa caucuses in the presidential elections, with one notable exception, which I'll get to in a second, the young have only come out to vote at a 3 to 4% rate. So of the registered, that's unbelievably bad, right? So of the people who are registered in that age bracket, only 3 to 4% of them vote in these caucuses. Now, what's the notable exception? In 2008, when Barack Obama was running against Hillary Clinton, and young voters thought that there was going to be real change coming versus an establishment candidate, not like Hillary Clinton, right, against that exact candidate, they did show up. Now, it's not like they overwhelmed anybody with how much they showed up, but it made all the difference. So in that case, 13% of eligible caucus voters under 29 turned out to vote.
That's a lot higher.
So instead of 3.5%, 13% showed up. And you know what happened? Barack Obama won by a little bit. So the young voters in 2008 made all the difference in the Iowa caucus. And here we are again. Young voters even more overwhelmingly supportive of Bernie Sanders than they were of Barack Obama. If they show up, which in a regular election they don't, but in extraordinary elections they do.
Huge crowds.
Right. And he is drawing huge crowds, and he has huge leads in that one.
Yeah.
So young voters, it turns out, it kind of is all on you.
It might be, yeah.
Yeah, so if you show up in Iowa, Bernie Sanders wins what appears to be an incredibly close election in Iowa, and then he'll win in a cakewalk in New Hampshire, then the whole country's on fire, and we've got a real race on our hands. So what's it going to be?
Yeah, and we preview really fast. We talked last week about, I didn't even know this was true, but in the Iowa caucuses, if a candidate doesn't have at least 15% support, he's ruled non-viable, and his supporters then need to go and either not vote at all or switch to a different candidate. And Martin O'Malley is at like 5%, and so that 5% could theoretically go somewhere, and we still unfortunately don't have data on where it would go. But that could be, in a race that's statistically tied, 5 points one way or the other could be huge.
Very badly burned.
Ooh, I feel it.
Almonds.
I feel the burn. Man, we got a race on our hands.
How sad is he going to be if Bernie loses?
No. Look,
Suicide watch it, TYT.
No. So look, am I supporting Bernie Sanders overall? Okay. Am I going to hem and haw like Barack Obama? No. It's obvious where I'm leaning. You could see it. Not leaning. If I was voting today, it's a landslide. I vote for Bernie Sanders. Everybody gets that, right? To be honest, my excitement today is more about the election. Like this is.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I gotta. Yeah. This is Patriots Broncos. Are they going to get the 2-point conversion? How many fourth downs does it take for the goddamn Patriots to score a goddamn touchdown?
And it's the bottom of the ninth.
Okay, all right. So we got to do Trump. Let's do one more. Let's do Trump, and then not the shoot one, but the polls.
Yeah. I just threw that in. We might mention it.
Yeah.
Just because it is an interesting quote. But okay. Over on the Republican side, here is the state of the Republican primary in Iowa. The last 4 GOP polls from Iowa show Donald Trump with leads of 5 to 11 percentage points over Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who's still in second.
Hold. Okay, now, we had a Republican debate last time around, and I remember someone saying that Trump had won so significantly that his numbers would move in a big way at the time.
But I'm not going to take credit now for that.
Hold. Okay. Now, at the time, remember that Cruz was winning in Iowa. Okay?
Some people were saying that.
Okay. All right. Now, I want to show you the videotape right after the last Republican debate. This is what we said on the show, and then I want to come back and quote those poll numbers for you again. Go ahead. Maybe we're wrong, maybe John's right, but we'll see soon. My guess is after this debate, Trump's poll numbers will only go up. And I think now he stands an excellent chance of winning Iowa. New Hampshire is already gone. He's already won it.
How many points do you think they'll go up? You think this is like a 2-point thing, or you think this is a 15-point thing?
No, 7, 9 points. That's huge.
Oh, you're more towards the big.
Yeah, more towards the big.
Okay, that's possible.
You're saying after this debate, Trump's numbers are going to go up 7 points?
Versus Cruz, yes. Okay. So, I mean, he can't, his numbers
then he'd almost
are
be beating
so
him then.
high, his numbers are so high, he can't get that much higher, or Cruz will drop, and Trump will rise a little bit, and it'll be about a 7-point difference after this debate. Let's see what happens.
While you were explaining that to me, Johnny was being a smartass.
I was being smartass. And I will continue that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see who's smart now. Let me go back to graphic 7 there. Donald Trump with leads of 5 to 11 percentage points over Texas Senator Ted Cruz in Iowa. That would appear to be right between 7 to 9%. Is it possible that I could have been more correct?
It's possible. We're not comparing.
According to the numbers, it's literally not
it's
possible.
Apples to oranges.
Oh, yeah.
No, here's exactly how it's apples to oranges.
5 to 11, 7 to 9, apples to oranges.
Because once again, this last 4 GOP polls showing him up 5 to 11 is including all of the candidates. When I was saying that he was losing to Cruz, it was during a hypothetical 2-person matchup, which we don't have the data on. I'm going to furiously try to find it during the break. We don't know that he's gained 7 to 9 points in that. We just know that he's generally up. And by the way, he's up by 5 to 11. He wasn't down in all of the polls beforehand. He was down in a Fox News poll, won by 5 points.
Okay.
So, yes, he has gained. A lot has happened in those past 2 weeks, a lot other than just the debate. But
here's what I just heard. Blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Yeah, that's mostly what I was saying.
In Iowa, I said, you just saw with your own eyes, that he had done so well that he would move up 7 to 9 points. Yeah, and now here he is, up 5 to 11 points.
He's
now you
up.
Can say
he didn't move up. He is up.
Okay, so you can parse those. And
I'm trying.
You are. And you can talk about, well, I mean, there was this poll and there was that poll. But have you seen, a political pundit get it more close to right than this? I mean, look, I said that he crushed in that debate and that it would move the poll numbers up significantly. In exactly that number. Is there anything I could have said that night that would have been more correct?
I was forgetting.
You see what I'm saying?
I had missed that crucially and importantly, Ted Cruz is a little weenie.
But that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. He's a little weenie.
But once again, hold on.
And Trump did this to him during the debate.
Hold on. Can we go to, let's bring up the 30-day rolling averages, just in the second poll.
Okay.
And number 8. Okay, so he's down 5 on average.
Ted Cruz.
Yes, so Ben Carson's at 7.4. If Ben Carson would just fall asleep for good, Ted Cruz would get those 7.4 points.
No, he
I
wouldn't.
think. I think
No,
he
he
would.
wouldn't.
I think it's the only people that are sticking with Ben Carson are the evangelicals. He had the anti-establishment people. They have since gone to Trump. I think he would get those 7.4 points, and he would be up a couple over Donald Trump. But Ben Carson keeps accidentally waking up at the last minute and holding on to those 7 points. He's screwing Ted Cruz over.
So, John,
and it's wrong. It's wrong.
Okay. John, you've got this wishful thinking. You're Nate Silvering this.
Yeah.
Okay. That you hate Trump and you don't want to see the political reality. I hate Trump.
I dream a dream of a Ted Cruz presidency.
I know, right? The only guy worse than Trump. But it's not about what we feel about their policy positions. It's about analyzing politics and seeing who did well in the debate, what effects it's going to have in the polls. And in this case, that's a rolling average. And if you want to, talk about where he was as opposed to where Trump is today, you wanted to say that was my actual prediction. By the way, he was down about 2 to 4 points. Now he's up by 5 points, which is 7 to 9 points.
You think you can use math for everything?
Okay, so
academic elitist over there,
right?
With his numbers.
And the reason, look, the reason I brag about getting stuff right is one, because it's fun. Let's just keep it real. But two, the other reason is so you know that we're not BSing you. We're not that we're trying to assess it to the best of our abilities. There's no love for Trump anywhere in the building here, right?
No.
But if Trump we think is doing well, it's our duty to report that to you.
Jared likes him a little bit. Okay. I'm not supposed to say that, I know, but
yeah. Oh, and Jesus loves him.
who listens to Jesus?
Right. So that's what's happening, and now people are beginning to realize after that debate, this thing on the Republican side might be over. Now, let me add one more thing to that I think is really important.
And then I want to add one thing.
Yes. Okay. So New Hampshire's done. He's a giant lead in New Hampshire for Donald Trump. They're talking about, is Kasich going to come in second at 12 points?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be Cruz or Rubio at 11 points? You're missing the guy with the 23-point lead, right?
Yeah.
So we're having this conversation based on a lot of wishful thinking by the mainstream, the establishment, and the pundits that they want Trump to lose. And so they're thinking, okay, there's going to be a challenger, blah, blah, blah. If you divorce it from the personalities and you put in different names, nobody would be having this conversation. If it was Jeb Bush that was at 32%, and had all the other numbers that Trump has, the conversation would be about, is this thing already over?
That's true.
And so that is the conversation we need to have. Because he's going to win in New Hampshire, his big lead in South Carolina, and he now has a solid lead in Iowa. And if you look at this, the story isn't who's going to come in second. The story is the guy in first is going to kill them all. Yeah, and right now that's Donald Trump comfortably.
And if he literally killed them all, he wouldn't lose any support, he thinks, which is probably true. But I am going to say, and maybe this is my bias, I think it's more towards what you were saying about thinking back on past elections. With it still within 5 points on average between Ted Cruz and Trump, and this could be changed by their performances in the last debate, I admit that. I still think there is a substantial chance that Ted Cruz wins in Iowa, and I'm willing to say that as a prediction, the reason being that all of the things that make Trump's support different than other politicians, I know you're already getting ready to say I'm crazy, I don't think like you go in and you find out he was actually polling under his support, and that those people were actually more fired up to vote. I think those people aren't interested in politics. I think that they're saying, when you ask them who do you support, they like Trump because they like giving a middle finger to everybody. We know from analyses of Iowa, he doesn't have any ground game. He has no volunteers. He doesn't spend time in the area. Ted Cruz has been spending every waking moment there. If anybody is going to pull out a surprise on Iowa caucus night, it isn't going to be Trump. It's going to be Cruz. That's my belief.
Okay, well, then we got it on the record. No, I'm happy to have it on the record.
I'm ready to delete this as soon as necessary.
Last thing, JR, I need an arbiter here. Okay. I'm just saying. I mean, you're oftentimes my biggest skeptic.
Yes, he gained points. I admit, he gained points after the debate.
I'm already done with you. JR, what say you?
If he has a chance to finish winning this?
No. My 7 to 9 point prediction.
Well, I mean, it was self-explanatory.
Thanks a lot, JR. I gave you candy today.
Because as I was cutting that down, I was looking for any of the caveats where John was saying, okay, I get that, and I would have included that. Because, as Cenk pointed out, especially in these I Told You So videos, I look for anything.
I know. I thought I had
Like,
to
you
myself.
kind of told us so, but you didn't completely tell us so. And it was kind of exact. But, even the way it was, you said, well, what are you going to go? He's going to gain 9 points? He goes, no. The difference will be that because when we go down one. And I was like, oh, that probably isn't going to happen either. But it did.
Hey, Zeus, could you cut his mic, please?
But it did. Okay. All right, we got to take a break. I will try to deflate my head a little bit when we come back. But we got the Bloomberg story coming up, too. That's super important. So come right back. All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, living legend, Anna Kasparian. All right, we're going to get to that in a second, Casper. All right, cool it, okay? Hold your horses. All right, let me read a couple tweets first. Guy with glasses writes in, JR is rude for not supporting John Iadarola. John gave you candy. I thought we were in America. Hashtag legalized bribery.
I don't know what this is about, but...
So John and I were beefing, and JR supported me because the facts were overwhelmingly on my side, despite the fact that he got the bribe of candy earlier today. So what is it? It's your birthday? Is your birthday today? Or
Correct.
was
Actually today.
Actually today. Hey, happy birthday!
And somehow, John, the only thoughtful person at TYT hands me two, I think it's like 5-pound bags of candy.
Because JR loves candy. But
Except one was M&M's, so that's going to get spread around because I don't really.
Okay.
You don't like M&Ms?
Not chocolate in general.
No,
They're
no,
just plain
yeah.
chocolate M&Ms?
Mm-hmm.
That's a travesty.
Okay.
How dare he?
But it was extremely nice. That sounded like an asshole. Like you accept a gift and go, I don't eat that shit. It's not what I'm saying.
Kind of. Okay. Kind of. All right. So a couple of quick things here. Obviously, the best birthday gift you got was much earlier than your birthday. The Monster headphones you're wearing. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Okay.
You just keep wearing them. I mean, you can't take them off once they're on.
Yeah, I suppose so, right? Okay. I wonder if they're a sponsor. Okay. Now, see, this is how John screws up and gets nicknames like Johnny Pie and Sprinkles, by being a decent human being, right? None of us other bastards get JR anything. I don't know. I'm like, is it your birthday? I don't know, right?
I said happy birthday to him when I watched it.
Okay. He does the decent thing, and he gets shit for it. But it does go to our principles of standing for honesty no matter what, despite the fact that he was bribed.
Mm-hmm.
JR was like, no, Cenk was right.
Yeah. All right, fair enough.
Okay, all right. So now we move on. Mary Quigliata says, Cenk is also excited about Bernie because this is a referendum on old media versus new media. Hashtag times are changing. I don't know. Maybe you're right, Mara. I don't view it that way, but maybe subconsciously that's part of what I'm thinking. So thank you for the psychoanalysis. That might be correct. Mm-hmm. Okay. Dave's Gone Man says, Trump won't win Iowa. Almost 60% of his supporters have not voted before. Again, you might be right. John might be right. John has similar points about that. We'll see on caucus night. That'll be interesting. I think he will win. I think he'll win surprisingly comfortably. Okay? Mm-hmm. But we'll see. We'll see. That's why Iowa's so exciting. And that's happening next Monday. So, speaking of which, tonight we got a Democratic town hall. We're covering it. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Martin O'Malley. That's at 8:45 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, my God. Martin O'Malley's still included in this shit. Really?
I know. We're going to have to waste a whole bunch of time on him. Okay, anyway, God bless his heart. I like his stick-to-itiveness. He's like, I am not leaving this race until someone declares me vice president. Okay. So, and then on Thursday night, we got a GOP debate. That's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. All of those are on tytnetwork.com/live. Don't miss it. And then, Iowa caucus night. Come caucus. Okay. So that is next Monday night. We'll be covering it throughout. Okay. It's going to be an extravaganza. Don't miss it. Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are this close, let alone the mystery of what happens between Trump and Cruz.
Right.
Okay. Now, I believe Anna Kasparian was on CNN and lit the house on fire.
Yeah. So I was on CNN yesterday. I don't know if I lit the house on fire.
I like how you started with, Yeah. And then that happened.
Okay, I was on CNN. I was on a show called Reliable Sources, and I wanted to talk about it because there's some inside baseball, some thoughts. You know, a lot of people on Twitter have been commenting on it, and people seem to really like it. Now, they brought me on with Scotty Nell Hughes, who is a Tea Party conservative who is supportive of Trump. And so the night before the interview, which, by the way, happened on Sunday morning, I decided, hey, maybe it's a good idea for me to research this show. Got to be completely honest with you, I didn't know who the new host was because you had been on Reliable Sources before.
With Howard Kurtz.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I thought that was still the host. I don't watch cable news at all. The only time I know about cable news is when I find all the inaccuracies that they report about, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, Brian Stelter, I'm familiar with him. He's cool. But this Tea Party activist, I don't know how that's going to go. I did my research on her. I had very little prep in like what we're going to talk about, how the segment's going to go, how long is it going to be. Usually a producer tries to prepare you as much as possible. That wasn't the case. I didn't know what I was walking into.
But can I just say, I actually like that. I don't know if they intended it that way, probably not. But in TV, they over-prepare.
That's true.
Overproduce. And they're like, okay, and then they prepare you for hours and hours, and then you have 2 minutes.
Right.
And what was that all about, right?
Yes.
So, you know, the fact that you guys kind of relatively went in cold, I don't mind at all. And, the way you came out so strong, not knowing what the topics are, man, that was even more impressive.
So let me show you guys the clips. There's 2 clips. The entire interview was about 5 minutes long. We're not going to show you the full thing, but the 2 clips that I chose will kind of give you the gist of how the discussion went. Let's take a look at the first one.
Let me try out a theory on both of you. Anna, you first. Many journalists, many members of the media are deaf to the frustration in the country, maybe because journalists, at least major media outlets, tend to be paid more than the average American, or because they live in big urban cities instead of in the heartland. What do you think of that theory, Anna?
Well, I think that it's true, especially of establishment media, to be completely honest with you, because the same types of components that corrupt our politicians, I think, also corrupt mainstream media. So it's really difficult for mainstream, let's say, cable outlets to talk about things like income inequality, wealth inequality, when the advertisers that are funding their shows are the same corporations that want to ensure that the same system continues. So I think when people watch digital media or new media, they get a completely different message. They focus on the issues that matter or resonate more with the constituency.
Scotty, I know you have a different political perspective, but do you buy into that argument?
Well, she makes some very good points, but honestly, I disagree, because in journalism, we know if it bleeds, it leads. And we're not just talking about the physical. You know, when we're $19 trillion in debt, when we have 94 million people out of the workforce right now, we see terrorism issues not only abroad, but here at home. Those are the stories that are leading our headlines. And so a journalist has to have their head completely in the sand if they don't realize that that is what people are watching, and the ratings show that those types of headlines make it. So I actually think journalists do know about the anger. If anything, they've not necessarily tried to feed it, but haven't done anything to definitely try to put the warm and fuzzy stories as their headline.
First of all, no one said anything about warm and fuzzy stories. Income inequality, wealth inequality, those are not warm and fuzzy issues. But
they are to Republicans.
They are, I guess so.
Because they're on the right side of the inequality.
So she is the epitome of what journalists aren't supposed to be. And I'm not just saying this to insult her when she can't really defend herself. When you make the statement, when it bleeds, it leads, that goes against the whole point of journalism. It's not about, oh my God, what's going to get the most ratings. If you focus on what's going to get you the ratings and ignore actual news, then you're not doing what a journalist is supposed to do, right?
Yeah, but I'm not at all surprised by that, because she's a Tea Party person supporting Trump. It's journalism. Journalism. Amusing. But what I love there is 2 things that you did. One was you came into CNN's house and you lit a match. Okay. So, no disrespect. That's only partly true. I've been on CNN many times. I know Brian a little bit, and God bless him for having you on, and that's thoughtful and all that. But you're like, look, you asked me a direct question about what's wrong with the media, and I'm going to tell you the right answer. It's that you guys are getting paid by the same guys that are part of the establishment. And almost no one ever says that on TV.
Well, that's because when you say that, and when you walk into someone's house and you insult them, which is basically what I did, they're not going to invite you back, right?
Yeah.
And so before I did the interview, I made a decision, and I decided that I don't care if I get invited on CNN again. CNN is not my goal, right? It's not what I aspire to do with my career. And so what I'm doing right now is what I aspire to do. I love it. I get to speak about issues that matter, and I get to say what I want to say without anyone, including Cenk, telling me, you can't say that. And it's a great feeling. And if I'm not going to be wealthy, if I'm not going to be famous, I don't care, right? As long as I feel fulfilled. So I went in there knowing I'm probably going to destroy any chance I have of ever going on CNN again, and that's fine. So that's how I felt about it.
Dude, I almost want to raise your hand and declare you champion. Okay, so the second thing that I love that you did there was you somehow got her totally off her talking point and into what she actually believes. So here's what I mean by that. She normally is supposed to come on and yell at the liberal media. And Stelter asked a question that would normally tee her up to do that, right? No pun intended, T. Since she's from the Tea Party. But you turn around and you're like, yeah, no, the media is bad because they actually represent the propaganda that the establishment wants. And she's like, wait, okay, but wait a minute, that propaganda is really good. I want that propaganda. Be scared of terrorism, and all these people are out of work, and the deficit. That's the propaganda they've been pushing. The media has played along with it. So if you actually push her, she's actually going to defend the media because they're her best friend.
No, but the incredible thing is she proved my point for me. So I went up there and said, hey, they're not talking about the issues that matter, like income inequality, wealth inequality, basically talking about the economy. And she threw out this very deceptive 94 million people out of the workforce number, right? So what is it? Do you think that these issues are important or not? Because I just said they're important, we should discuss them, and you kind of just agreed with me, but then said that you disagreed with me. By the way, the 94 million statistic that she threw out there is so incredibly deceptive. The vast majority of people included in that number are retired individuals and students, okay? So no, 94 million Americans aren't just sitting on their asses not looking for work. These are people who have already worked or are still in school. And then there's 20 million Americans who are stay-at-home parents, right?
One more quick thing about that. So the actual numbers are when President Bush left office, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. Amazing, almost 1 million jobs a month. We were bleeding jobs so badly. Now we have had a record number of months in a row where we have added jobs, literally a record in American history. So it's easy to say at any given time, 94 million people are out of work. Yeah, if you count retired people, yada, yada, right?
Yeah.
But wait, who was it better under Obama or was it better under Bush? It's 1,000,000 times better under Obama, but she doesn't want to say that. The reason she brings that up is to say, it's bad because look at this big number I threw out. I blame Obama. And what are your answers for that? Cover terrorism, so you're all scared and vote Republican, and, it's the deficit. So, and by the way, what does the media do? They do exactly what she wants. Cover terrorism wall to wall, and whenever there's an issue about economy, they don't talk about inequality, lower taxes on the rich, lower taxes on corporations. What do they talk about? Deficit.
Which, by the way, Obama has lowered the deficit considerably, right? But they won't talk about that either.
Yes, he was handed a $1.2 trillion yearly deficit, and he has brought that down about 50%.
Which is incredible. All right, so here's the second part of the video where things get a lot more heated.
I just wanted to make a statement about how a lot of the issues that matter the most to the electorate don't get covered at all. So let me give you a quick example of that.
Yeah.
Student loan debt is one of them. That is impacting our economy in one of the most negative ways imaginable, and we're sitting here having discussions about immigration and building walls. Right now, if you focus on the actual numbers, and this is according to Pew Research, immigration from Mexico is below net zero. What does that mean? That we have more Mexican immigrants leaving the country right now than coming in. And instead of focusing on issues that actually matter to millennial voters, for instance, we're focusing on non-issues in the country. The fear-mongering about Muslims and terrorism. Go
I
ahead,
hate to tell
Scotty.
you this.
Please tell
There's
me what you
more.
need to say.
No. Well, I hate to tell you this. There's more in this world than just millennials. And I'm sorry. I agree. College debt's a big issue. But when people are actually scared for their lives, that is the headline right there. So I agree. And it also looks at party lines. But I think across the board, both parties right now have let their constituencies down. And the media is just sitting there telling the stories. I mean, I'm sorry. If there was a terrorist action that happened in the United States and they let off with college debt, I would consider that media outlet to be a complete joke.
Okay, but so you think that our current economic situation in the United States is not a big deal? You'd rather fearmonger about non-existent threats inside the United States as opposed to focusing on the issues that are burdening our economy. And by the way, student loan debt doesn't just impact students. It also impacts you, and it impacts our economy, because how are millennials supposed to contribute to our economy when we're burdened with student loan debt, when we're dealing with a system that's corrupt, when 62 richest people in the world own more wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion people in the world? How are you going to talk to me about, oh, these issues don't matter?
Yeah, you do, especially when I'm on with her.
Damn. Did you drop the mic at the end?
No. I just... when he said, I have to play referee here, I was like, yeah, well, here's the thing. You brought me on with a conservative. Let me do my thing, right? Isn't this what you guys wanted? And I don't like being equated with her because I'm not in the same camp as her. I am not extreme in my views. My views are things that I have not only researched, I've been talking about for years now, right? If I'm ever wrong, the audience holds me accountable and I correct my mistakes. I am not on the same camp as that woman, right? I am not the opposite extreme of a Tea Party activist. So that pissed me off, and that's why I felt like, you know what? Yeah, you do have to play referee. If I'm on with her, then play referee. That's your role here, isn't it?
Right, because apparently you're coming for it. Okay, so I see, that's interesting. I didn't know that they didn't prep you, because I thought for sure they prepped you about immigration, because you pulled that net zero on immigration. I was like, damn.
Because I know my shit. I'm not on the same camp as her. I'm not doing this to toot my own horn. I take the news seriously. I love doing what I do, right? And I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to make sure that I come correct with facts. I'm not going to have talking points prepared. And so, I'm glad that it went the way that it went. But I don't know if that resonated with anyone. I don't know if that's going to change the way the current system is. But I know that there are people online who saw that and they felt it. And I love that.
Yeah, because, again, two things as to why that resonated. One is, how often do people come on TV and say, hey, no, you're missing the whole story. The story is, like you said, 62 people in the world have as much money as 3.5 billion people. So now you guys never talk about that, because you're funded by those 62 people in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to talk about it, whether you like it or you don't like it. And what does she do? She falls back on what she does, because she's not a journalist. She does propaganda. Yeah. So she's like, hey, if it bleeds, it leads. If there's terrorism, I'm sorry, we're not going to talk about college debt. No, but nobody's saying right after a bomb goes off, I need you to talk about college debt.
That's exactly
We're saying, hey, at some point, can we have a discussion about college debt and how it not only, as Anna pointed out in that segment, hurts the people who have it, but it hurts the economy because they don't have the money to spend elsewhere, buying cars, buying houses, et cetera, and how it depresses the economy overall. If you think that's not important or that's not relevant, then you're obviously not paying attention. So if you pretend to care about the economy, then you would care about this.
Exactly.
But she doesn't. She cares about her propaganda. You threw her for so many loops. That's why she had that face on it most of the time, like what? And that was a joy to watch.
I know. It's just words of wisdom if anyone wants to be on TV and get into these debates. If you are disagreeing with someone, it's better to not make those faces because you just come off as unprofessional, right? So if she was punching me in my face as we're doing this this segment, yeah, it would suck, but it just makes you look petty when you're rolling your eyes and shaking your head, right? Come correct with some facts. That's totally fine. But she had nothing, and she had no idea what she was walking into. I don't think CNN had any idea what they were doing when they invited me on.
So, well, who knows? I believe, though, that it went so well that they might do it again. So look, lastly, if she's going to fearmonger on whether it's terrorism or immigration, and then you say immigration is below net zero, well, you just pulled a rug out from underneath her. That's why she's got nothing but a facelift. Mm-hmm. How do you respond to that? You can't respond to that because it's obvious what you're doing. You're fear-mongering about non-relevant issues as you bring those on. And I got to say that for decades, we've covered it on the show, Republicans and conservatives roll over liberals on cable television, right? My dad was just rewatching Brave New Films Outfoxed, and they explained there that Fox News on purpose will bring on liberals so that they can steamroll them. They'll bring on weaker liberals, ones who go, well, you're largely right, but, right? So I love how TYT you were like, no, we don't get steamrolled. We are the steamroller.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.
God bless.
Yes. All right, so let's get to some news today. An 8th grader in Texas received a 2-day suspension for saving the life of one of his classmates. One of his classmates was suffering from a severe asthma attack, and the teacher decided to email the nurse and wait for a reply. Well, the student in question, Anthony Ruelas, decided that maybe waiting for the nurse is not the best idea when your classmate has now fallen to the floor as a result of this asthma attack. So he grabs the student and goes into the nurse's office, and thankfully the student is now okay. She received the treatment that she needed. She texted Anthony Ruelas to let him know, hey, I'm all right now, and everything was supposed to be fine after that. However, the teacher, who's unidentified, apparently was not happy with the fact that Ruelas did not comply with her orders to not leave the classroom. So as a result, he got suspended. 2-day suspension, again, for doing nothing other than saving his classmate's life.
Okay, I'm going to 98% agree with you, but I have a little contrarian point to make first, which is that sometimes you do have to break the rules to do the right thing.
That's right.
And so I always pictured in my head, like they always say, what if there was a ticking time bomb? Would you torture someone to get the information, right? First of all, there's no ticking time bomb, never has been. It's a BS thing in order to just say that you can't, come on, just let us torture, right? There's no Jack Bauer. It's the bomb doesn't go off on the 24th hour, right? Now, if there actually was, for the first time in history, a ticking time bomb, and I felt that I had to torture someone, and I did that, if I did that, I would immediately step down, right? I'd say, okay, I broke the rules, and there has to be consequences for that. So even if it was the right thing, and I saved the person, I saved the town, whatever it is, I can't continue doing this job because you're not supposed to torture people.
Right.
It's the wrong thing to do, right? So in this case, the only point I'm making is if he gets suspended for doing the right thing while breaking the rules because he broke the rules, I don't think that he should view that as such a bad thing. Like, it's almost more of a point of pride and courage that you were willing to break the rules and suffer the consequences to do the right thing.
I totally see what you're saying, but at the same time, this is a deterrent for any other student who ends up doing the right thing. And it sends the wrong message because it teaches students what our current education system has been doing for a while. Just comply. Okay, don't think outside the box. Don't break the rules. Don't do anything that could be considered civil disobedience should you be worried about our current political system. Just comply. And I hate that message. That goes against everything that this country is supposed to be about, right? So yes, this is one small issue, but if you look at the broader problem in the country, I think you kind of understand why this pattern exists. We shouldn't create a system that continuously tells people, especially kids, you just need to comply, right? What he did was the right thing. And I don't want any other student to be deterred from doing the right thing in the future just because some ridiculous teacher wants to follow a zero tolerance policy.
Well, that gets to the larger issue, which is about the teachers, unfortunately, in this case, and the system that they're under. It's not to blame teachers. It's that the teachers are told, if you don't follow procedure, there's going to be consequences on you.
Right.
Right? And so you have to follow this mandate. And if you go out 1 inch outside the mandate, we're going to come for you. Right? And so she's told, if a student has a health problem, you email the nurse. We don't send every paper cut to the nurse. Probably the reason for it is don't send every paper cut to the nurse. Email her first. Go through this procedure. Yes, but be a human being. And this gets to where I agree with you 98% and my number one pet peeve in the world. God gave us a mind, if you believe in God or Darwin or whoever. Not actually Darwin. So that we can use human judgment. Yes, normally you would follow procedure. Unless someone is dying on the floor, in which case pick them up and bring them to the nurse.
The lack of common sense in this story is what enrages me the most. Because think about that. You are now dealing with a life or death situation, and your strategy is to send an email. to send a freaking email. That's
Who knows
absurd.
if she's going to check her
It's
email?
absurd. If I were that girl's parent and I found out that that teacher sent an email during my daughter's asthma attack, I will do everything in my, everything possible to get that teacher fired. But you have no reason to be anyone who takes care of kids, looks after kids. You don't have any common sense.
Well, I would also, though, I'd be more pissed at the administration. Like, hey, man, you cannot set these rules where all the teachers are worried they're going to get fired if they step 1 inch outside the rules. You've got to teach them that they are teachers.
Yeah.
And part of being a teacher is not just teaching to a test, not just following all the goddamn rules that are given to all these teachers through the system that we've set up, but to actually use human judgment to figure out what's the best situation. Sometimes it's teaching outside of the mandate a little bit. Sometimes it's saving a girl who's dying on the floor instead of following procedure.
Right.
And I loved Anthony's quote. And by the way, the teacher doesn't disagree.
The teacher wrote her own statement of what occurred, and it's exactly what the student said happened.
So there's no dispute about what actually happened, except he left out the first 2 words. I'm going to read the full quote. When she said, no, don't pick her up, I'm just emailing the nurse, Anthony said, fuck that. We ain't got time to wait for no email from the nurse.
I actually kind of love it.
It's great. It's phenomenal.
Amazing. All right, Anthony, you're a hero. All right. Apple is in the middle of a bitter debate involving your privacy and whether or not prosecutors can use backdoors in order to get encrypted information. Now, this is all about...
Sorry.
I know. I mean, backdoor is just the best. All right, so that's not what I meant. Damn it! Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. This is a serious story.
It is a serious story. So this all started back in October of 2015 when a student by the name of June... I forget his name. It's
Fang.
irrelevant.
June
Fang. Sorry. Well, it all began in October of 2015 when a student by the name of June Fang was being prosecuted for allegedly trying to sell amphetamines to other people, right? So my guess is he was probably trying to sell Adderall or something, and he got caught. Now, he admitted that he was doing this, but prosecutors needed access to information in his cell phone to get details about what was really going on behind the scenes. Well, it turns out that he had configured his phone in such a way that if you attempt to find the code to access the phone, after 10 tries, it'll erase all of the data on that phone, okay? It was configured that way. Mm-hmm. So the Department of Homeland Security has this incredible software that will try every possible code on the phone until you unlock it. But of course, by the time they unlocked it, they had tried more than 10 codes, so it erased all the data. Now, prosecutors got upset about that, and so they reached out to Apple, and they're like, yo, what's going on? Should you be able to do this? And Apple is fighting back and trying to protect users' privacy. So let me give you some more information. This is from Apple themselves. They say, as an official from the Department of Homeland Security had previously testified, law enforcement had a device to easily run through every possible passcode to unlock the iPhone. But Fang's phone was configured to erase all its data if somebody unsuccessfully tried 10 times in a row to unlock it. In most cases now and in the future, the government's requested order would be substantially burdensome, as it would be impossible to perform. Apple says that future operating systems like iOS 8 and the current iOS 9 are designed to be impenetrable by even Apple itself. So basically what they're doing is they're saying, it's out of our hands, right? We're creating a system that we can't even penetrate. And as a result, if you guys come to us looking for, encrypted data, we just can't provide it to you.
Yeah. So my second favorite part of the story after the back door was the prosecutors say, yo, Apple. Okay. I'm not sure that's exactly how they phrase it. All right. So now this is an interesting issue because on the one hand, you've got prosecutors saying, hey, listen, this guy broke the law. Mm-hmm. He eventually pled guilty.
Yes.
So we need information about his law breaking. Help us out. And okay, that seems pretty reasonable. On the other hand, Tim Cook in his testimony, and that's what's got revealed now, and that's why we're doing this story, the CEO of Apple, said, look, if you start having me give you this information, well, then my users can't trust me because they think anytime the government wants my information, Apple's going to give it to them. Sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not justified. Especially if I give you a back door, well, then you can come in anytime and get the information without even asking me. So I'm not going to put a back door in, right? And so you want to play that game, I'll design it so I can't even get the information, so there's nothing you can do about it, right? And what was left unsaid, but it's also true and very relevant to Apple is, now this is the U.S. government telling me, hey, I got a dangerous guy, you got to give me his information. Then there's the Chinese government saying, I got a guy who's dangerous to the republic or to the state, so you're going to have to give me that political dissidence information. Well, I mean, you follow the laws of the U.S., then do you have to follow the laws of China, Russia, Syria, right? Yep. And the list goes on and on. So I don't think it's an easy question. I don't, because in this case, the guy's selling meth or whatever he's selling, okay. Yeah. But what if he was a child rapist, a killer, something horrible? Then it becomes not easy, right? Right. But having said that, balancing out all those different factors, I think Apple's doing the right thing, saying, hey, listen, I definitely can't have you access this information anytime you want without a warrant. So I'm not going to put a back door that the government can go in. No way. But even further to say I can't even get it in the new operating systems, well, it protects us from government in general. So especially if you're conservative and you're worried, I got to have my guns to protect me from the government. Well, you don't necessarily have to shoot them if Apple can just make sure they don't get your information in the first place. So I'm going to side with Apple here.
Yeah, I side with Apple as well for all the reasons that you just mentioned. You can't have a uniform policy when you consider the fact that your product is being utilized in so many different countries, especially countries that have a more authoritarian way of doing things, right? At the same time, even when you do a cost-benefit analysis, even in the disastrous cases involving things like child pornography and things, there are other ways of catching people. Yeah. I think a cell phone is just an easy way of prosecuting. You're a prosecutor. Do the dirty work. Do the grunt work. How do you prosecute people before smartphones were available? You can still do it. You just want to do it in a lazy way. Now, in this case, they did obtain a warrant, but I still don't care, right? Like, I think that at the end of the day, this is Apple's decision. If they want to protect users' privacy more than anything, then they should be able to do it. And we continuously have these discussions about, oh, let's not regulate business too much. It's going to ruin things, right? Well, I think in this case, maybe it makes sense to ensure that you don't overly regulate a company that wants to do something to protect its users.
Again, conservatives should agree with that. So if in this case, it's not like you say, okay, all meth dealers, you're free to go. Right. Like Anna said, there are other ways of prosecuting them. There's a lot of other evidence. And there's still the way the government can track you by using your cell phone. They could use it for location that they don't need Apple's help on. Exactly. So there's a ton of different ways to go about this. But we want to ask you guys too, because again, I don't think it's an easy question. Should Apple have let prosecutors have access to an alleged criminal's iPhone? So far, 30% of you say yes. 70% say no, but there's a lot more voting to come. That's on the TYT app. So download the app by typing in TYT in the App Store. We're interested in your votes. We'll let you know what the final vote is tomorrow.
All right. Should we take a break?
Break time. Quick break. When we come back, some of my favorite stories, including whether you should have weed at your wedding instead of alcohol. That story's got 3 awesome facts in it. And then a politician goes on Tinder. Does he get laid? Okay, we'll explain.